Welcome, everybody, to round 15 of the regional championships in Portland. We have Alan Hubbard up top on Eldrazi ramp against Heath Butler on Grinding Breach.
And a fast start here from Alan. We have Ugin's Labyrinth imprinting Emrakul the Promised End into a Talisman.
And this is the start that you need when you're on the Eldrazi ramp deck. It's that turn 2, 4 mana, Karn the Great Creator to kind of get out ahead of whatever Butler tries to put on the table.
Indeed. Looks like a Preordain was in hand for Heath here.
Yeah, I'm seeing extra cantrips in Butler's deck, which is something that really speaks to trying to have very defined plans and being able to execute on specific bullets that we've seen a lot of in these Breach decks over the weekend. Shuffling up with a Breeding Pool on 1 off a Scalding Tarn. Mox Amber.
It's hard to know if I think Alan maybe mulligan. It's when you put so many cards in play on turn 1, it's a little hard to track if they mulligan or not. But Alan's hands looks a little light.
Alan has 4, but with the 3 in play, that's
okay.
fine.
Yeah. Okay, nice. All right.
Okay, and look at all this mana on 1. Heath goes Breeding Pool, Mox Amber, Tomio, use the Mox Amber for Preordain. It feels like these players are playing a different format.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of game actions that are happening right now in Modern, and a lot of these top decks can either be incredibly mana efficient or have these huge bursts of mana in the early game. As it looks like we're going to do the second verse same as the first when it comes to lands here for Alan, and maybe even plays as the second Talisman into Karn the Great Creator on turn 2. With 6 mana, and taking a look at the sideboard here.
Very robust Karn package.
Yeah, we have a lot of cards. We've talked about this a few times in the broadcast this weekend. Some players are foregoing cards like Cityscape Leveler to have, maybe a Nature's Claim or something like that. But we have it here from Alan, and that's going to mean we have some big thing to pay off on the next turn if we want it. Now, we're wishing right now to see sort of what we want from our Karn, and we're going to take the Stone Brain.
And this is great because assuming Alan gets to untap from here, which, yeah, if you're able to get out from under this, that's a pretty big problem. But the Stone Brain taking out just the Underworld breaches means that Heath is going to have to play a fair game against Eldrazi. Good luck.
Yeah, that's a big, big ask.
All right, back over to Heath. They've got to be feeling the pressure. Misty Rainforest, a clue with the Tomio. And that's that. Back over to Alan.
Yeah, we had Underworld Breach in hand, just not the grinding station with the ability to deploy it all. So Alan is probably going to cast a Stone Brain, but if a Spell Snare is here, it's going to be huge. See it so fast. Spell Snare from Heath.
Okay.
And
still in the game.
Yeah, and this is something that doesn't come up a ton, but a lot of these Eldrazi players are playing 2 or 3 Stone Brains for moments exactly like this. Board some in, and if your opponent has Spell Snare, run it back immediately.
Right, and there's some versions of this game where Alan can take the long way around of get a Tormod's Crypt, exile my own Stone Brain, roll up the Karn, roll it back down to get the Stone Brain back, but I don't know if he has that kind of time.
It's definitely going to be tough, as Soulless Jailer is the next wish for Karn.
Okay, and you can kind of see Alan assembling a series of interlocking puzzle pieces. You just say, okay, this is stopping you from comboing. This is stopping you from comboing.
Definitely. Alan left with Kozilek's Command and Kozilek's Return in hand.
Kozilek's Command has been really impressive this weekend.
That card is very powerful.
Yes. All right, we see the in-step fetch for Heath. They're probably just getting a Surveil land here.
Looks like there might be some thought to our mana in hand as well, of like which land do we need to get and can we cast our spell that maybe is causing a bit of the tension.
Yeah, and it looks like there isn't a Thundering Falls, so there is a question of do they want to get the Surveil value of something with something like Hedge Maze and risk not having red mana, or just get the Steam Vents tapped.
Yeah, and you saw Keith think about it there. Decides to go for the Hedge Maze, get that Surveil and try and sculpt the draw a little more.
Yeah, this tracks for me. With the amount of emphasis we have them putting on cantrips in their deck, this is a player who obviously puts a huge premium on selection. Flips over a Tomio. Definitely didn't want to draw that here.
All right. Malevolent Rumble is going to be the cast. Looking. Odawara, okay, that's going to get Karn off the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we got an Eldrazi spawn.
All right, here's Misty Rainforest, and now because of these Moxen, all of a sudden, Karn has the ability to do the liquid metal coating, blow up lands thing without liquid metal coating.
Definitely, yeah. And this is something that, you know, Karn does a lot of, is just sort of interact a little bit and make your life awkward.
All right, so the roll up on the Karn, on the Mox Amber.
Another Karn. All right. I mean, you talked about going after the lands. I wonder if this one might get liquid metal coating.
It might be time.
Heath can play around this a little bit by leaving the fetch up, and that way, you know, you can get your red mana when you want to.
Yes.
Just fetch the Steam Vent, lose the life. It's not the end of the world against the Eldrazi deck normally to take a couple extra fetch shocks.
Right, and there are only 2 fetchable red sources in the deck. 1 Steam Vents, 1 Stomping Ground. So it is very high risk to even expose them.
Looks like Alan.
Really thinking about, and I mean, when you have this much on the line, you really do want to make sure that you're not at dinner tonight, laying in bed tonight going, oh God, why did I get the wrong thing with Karn?
You think it's just tonight? You don't think it's the rest of your life?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. There are definitely, I can tell you turns of games in Pro Tours I still regret, but that's, I'm not being that vulnerable right now.
Oh, of course, yeah. We're keeping that to ourselves. As it does look like this Karn is going to be minus. There's maybe some discussion about, you know, I was looking at my sideboard. Can I actually maybe tick up? I'm not sure. Tormod's Crypt is going to be the get. That's going to make it harder to go for the Underworld Breach combo.
So I understand I was joking a little bit before when talking about this, but right now Tormod's Crypt has the ability to hold the combo back for a turn, and then if Alan gets another turn, he has the ability to Tormod's Crypt himself, then roll down the Karn on the table to pick up the Stonebrain again.
Definitely, and would also have the Crypt in exile too if the Karn stayed around.
Right.
To even have even more insulation. As it looks like,
Heath in the tank.
yeah, trying to figure out how do I get out of this spot. Unholy Heat won't do it because if I go for it, the Crypt will pop. Now, we do have a Lightning Bolt in the deck, so there's a chance.
Oh, I mean, that would be how it starts.
Definitely. And you see the hand, 3 Underworld Breaches in hand.
Oh my gosh, the 4th in the graveyard.
And we're holding up this Otawara still.
Okay. Rolling up the Karn, just knocking down a clue. Hubbard happy to just play some more turns.
Yeah, I mean, with Kozilek's Command in hand, too, you have a lot of protection from the combo itself. You can go after the cards in the graveyard. You can kill this Tameo. You can, you know, go digging. So with all this mana up, I think we're just going to try and look for, you know, this huge dig-through-time-esque mode on Kozilek's Command and work from there.
And with these Ugin's Labyrinth having Imricles hiding under them, there also comes a point where just going get a bunch of spawns is going to basically close the door on a dime.
Definitely. Mishra's Bauble to pick up, not really doing anything here except enabling Mox Opal. We're going to see a fetch in the Windswept Heath. Looks like it is probably going to be the Kozilek's Command here in response.
All right, here it is. And some of this is just figuring out how much to do it for. If you're not getting spawns, then you don't always just want to put all your mana into it.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also some question on, do I want to kill this Tameo? Do I want to, you know, like, what's it going to be? I imagine digging is a mode that's very tempting. I know the spawns are tempting for me to sort of double my mana.
Okay, here are those spawns.
All
and
right.
Here's Scry 1, Scry 2, and Scry 3. Sanctum of Ugin's not bad. The rest, just a land and a Kozilek's Return.
Yeah, so I mean, where we're looking at card types in the graveyard, though, we have Kindred, Instant, Artifact, Creature. I'm sorry, Artifact, Planeswalker, Land. That's a lot.
Getting close.
Yeah, I mean, with these Eldrazi Scions in play,
10 mana on the table right now for Hubbard.
Emrakul's 5 off.
11 with the Sanctum of Ugin.
Sanctum might get chaining things like Worldbreaker.
All right. You can see Hubbard doing the math. Taps Ugin's Labyrinth to pick up the Emrakul. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. Counts everything else out. 8 mana, Emrakul, the Promised End.
And we have seen this just be the end game for so many of the matches where this card comes down, it does a little bit to sort of make it so your opponent can't win, and then just clocks you so quickly. 13 in the air is just so large.
All right, Karn goes after another clue, up to 5.
Looks like
A little bit of a judge call, just double checking the number of cards, or excuse me, the number of types in graveyard.
yeah, I think we might have missed the fact that it's a Kindred instant.
Sure.
And, you know, the old double type.
Yep. All right, and now Heath really put to the test. It's so funny. I don't know if funny's the right word. We'll use it here just in case. Figuring out how to make it as hard as possible for you to play completely awfully for yourself.
Yeah, you need to kind of use your resources in a way where you don't lose everything the following turn. But one of the things I'm noticing here is it's just really hard to even maybe set that up in a way where you can then go off the next turn. Because we have this channeled Otawara available to us, but what do you bounce?
What do you bounce the Emrakul?
Yeah, but if
He's
you bounce
at 13.
you just cast it again. Yeah, you bounce the Karn, but there's Crypt and Soulless Jailer in play. Now you can theoretically work through those, but Emrakul's going to use a lot of your resources.
All right, so Karn back to Alan's hand. And they drop their hand on the table. Mox Opal, 3 Underworld Breaches, Mishra's Bauble, and Scalding Tar in the hand.
Yeah, I mean, this Tameo isn't long for this world, right? She's going to probably go down to Emrakul. But
Emrakul, at the end of Eldritch Moon, would have been stoked for it to go this way.
Emrakul wanted to get imprisoned in the moon.
Right, no, I mean, that's the whole thing. But let's be honest. Revenge is great.
That's true. Well, Emrakul's plans are measured in rotations.
What are you doing?
Oh, that's a good one.
Thank you. It's really interesting where bouncing the Karn with the Otawara, I feel like Heath was priced into because they're hoping to just rip the perfect card off the top to be able to maybe combo from here. But at the same time, it actually unlocks a lot of options for Alan in a weird way.
Definitely, yeah. I'm curious to see, because Alan can play this Underworld Breach and then just escape over and over again on things, but I don't know if there's anything good to really do that with, because I don't think there's another Mox Opal, so it's not like you can Legend Roll. There's just a Mox Amber. You don't really want to do that with Bauble, right? Heath will get a bunch of cards then, so it's a very weird spot where we might just see, like, Breach into Breach and then pass.
And even then, Soulless Jailer's turning off a lot of the Breach lines. It's just really complicated.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
the
hand over the arm over the jailer maybe had a little object permanence moment for me, but yeah, it answered it there, and yeah, it's just like, yeah, I can cast this, but I can't do anything else.
All right, here's the tap of the Breeding Pool.
Popping that. Yeah, and there comes the Mox Opal. Reminds the own jailer.
Yep, yeah, there it is. See, just oh, by the way.
Yep. Yeah, so we can't do that. I mean, you could make a red and then, pop the Scion, get a Breach.
And I would guess he's about to fail to find.
Yeah, this might just be a moment of double-checking what's in the deck. It was open deckless, but a lot of pressure here playing for the top 8. Very important just to double-check, like, okay, wait, was it this round or last round they had Swan Song main deck?
Right.
Very easy thing to happen. Also, you might see a card you want. There might be a world where it's like, yeah, it is better to actually just shock here because I forgot about this card.
Yep.
So now Heath is at 12, so the Emrakul is threatening lethal.
All right, I suspect Tamiyo might be on her way to an extremely ill-advised combat step. Not before the second Underworld Breach is cast.
Yeah, and even though you're giving Heath a clue, losing the Tamiyo is worth this.
Right, this is the thing that was keeping Heath alive at this point. As you said a second ago, this Emrakul is lethal.
Yep. And now all they have in their hand is Mishra's Bauble and Underworld Breach, number 3. I'm not seeing how we can get out of this one. It's such a tough spot.
I've been racking my brain. I've been looking at the deck list. I think Heath is going to take the draw step. A lot's on the line here. You take the draw step every time. But I don't think this is going to go so well for them.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many layers of protection, so few resources. If our Underworld Breach could maybe go off, I could see a world where we somehow get back into this.
Okay, here's a Breach. What's it going to do? Is Tamiyo as a chump blocker? Soulless Jailer only prevents casting non-creature spells.
Yep. So, yeah, we might see Heath here. So the cost has been paid for the Breach, and the Tamiyo's on the stack. We might just pop the Tormund script in case there's something else. Yeah, it looks like there's just some question about Soulless Jailer, how exactly.
Yeah, it's that you can't use Unearth or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's the permanent cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield. So anything like Unearth that you'll see out of the Oculus decks gets turned off. And players can't cast non-creature spells from graveyards or exile.
Yeah, that second mode there on the exile thing really stops stuff like Cascade, right?
Yes.
So, this Tamiyo getting to hit the battlefield is big. I mean, that means Alan can't attack for lethal with the Emrakul because Heath is at 12. But, yeah, you see Heath's like, well, I'm just going to
okay,
lose.
well, that's my 4th Underworld Breach. Let's get getting.
Yeah. And I think this makes a lot of sense, too. Let's get more time to play game 2 and 3 as well. It's going to be a high-intensity match, a lot to think about, and just give myself the max amount of time.
And something that's interesting about this is the asymmetry in the records.
Mm-hmm.
For Heath, I think they're playing for possibly being on the play for all of top 8. Alan might be playing for their tournament life, more or less.
Yeah, I hadn't really processed that, but you're totally right.
All right, so moving over to the sideboards, we kind of talked about this a little bit going into the round. Alan does have the 4th Karn the Great Creator, which we saw how important that was.
Definitely. Super huge here. Just going to be the card that when we have it, life is a lot easier than when we don't. We have some other cards we could bring in. Typically, I like to keep Tormund Script in the sideboard because of that clean play Karn, grab a 0, play a 0. Okay, I've got my Stony Silence effect. I've got my Tormund Script. I'm feeling good. You could see something like bringing in Soulless Jailer just to have it as a draw. Once you have the crypts, you kind of have enough, and coding can sometimes do a good enough job. Similar with the Stone Brain, you might just want to be able to play it on turn 2.
I think I actually like bringing in the Stone Brain. This deck is so good at having 3 mana on turn 2 that giving you other live draws in your deck and ways to have a very explosive's the wrong word, but impactful turn 2 is kind of the name of the game for these Eldrazi ramp decks.
Yeah, similar with Engineered Explosives. A good way to sort of maybe stop the fair game plan if our opponent's on a bunch of consigns and Urza Saga, being able to blow up all the constructs is big, but also we might have a hand that's Mox heavy and just being able to go double land into Engineered Explosives on 0, pop it, clean up those Mox, act like a Stone Rain. I do think these Stone Rains will probably stay on the sideboard. I could see a world where maybe we have some cards on our main deck we don't love, but I think we have enough other cards that are good enough that we want to draw naturally and not Karn for that will probably keep those Stone Rains in the sideboard.
looking at the other side of the battlefield, Heath has a ton of stuff that looks nice here. Those 4 consigned memories have been a hallmark of sideboards throughout the whole event, really.
Yeah, Consign might be one of the best answer spells in Modern. And with the Eldrazi deck being so popular, that really compounds that. Some of the things that kind of are nice in the sideboard, Boseiju, a way to answer some of the problem cards we just talked about. I love this Mountain for matchups where we need that sort of thing.
Yes.
Pithing Needle can answer Karn, sort of. Make it so we can't get the other pieces of hate.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stuck out there that mattered a lot, if there had been a Pithing Needle, it could have stopped it too, is that Karn isn't just one hate piece. Karn is the first hate piece.
Yes, and that's the thing too. We talked about a lot of coverage this weekend, right? Breach, really good at beating the first hate piece.
Yes.
Can beat the second hate piece. And most of the time, the third thing plus pressure is what gets them. Well, Karn, like you just mentioned, 2-in-1, Stony Silence and Tormund Script. So, huge thing there. Nature's Claim as well for Heath. So, I think we have a lot of options, and I'm excited to see how they go about sideboarding.
And if you want to get your chance at punching your ticket to an invite-only event, you're going to want to join us in Denver here in a couple of months. We've got the return of Competitive Limited.
Yes, it's going to be Dragon Storm of Tarkir, I believe is the set name.
Tarkir Dragonstorm.
Dyslexia
but
strikes.
It's Magic Spotlight Dragons.
It's magic. All right, Spotlight Dragons. Nice. Well, you have this awesome Ugin art. I can't wait to see what the text box on that one is. But you'll know all of that when we're there April 11th through the 13th in Denver. You go to StarCityGames.com/SUGCon to find out that information. And if you're going to want to protect your cards, you're going to check out our sponsor, Dragon Shield.
So true. So true.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon Shield is sort of, the sleeve company, I think, for a lot of people when you think about it. And we're so happy to have them help us bring you Paper Magic.
Right, and I heard that you're going to be taking the headset off and maybe sleeving up some cards and battling in Denver?
Potentially, yeah. I think that's the intention. So, we'll have to see. I'd like to be in Denver. We'll have to see exactly what role that's in. Well, as we head on back to our feature match area, Carmen, you've been in these positions before. Why are you laughing?
Oh, I think it was the second to last Grand Prix before COVID shut down in Portland. I was in Alan's position and ended up losing to Logan Nettles.
Oh, I didn't realize that was in Portland.
Yeah, no, it looked like it was going to be the draw into the PT, except instead, not so much.
Tough. So, I mean, how do you handle those kind of spots?
Well, I didn't, personally. But all kidding aside, this is the type of thing where anyone who's able to actually make it this far in an event is just locked in. I think Heath did an awesome job of playing to their outs every single turn that last game, even making some plays that might look bad in the short term, bouncing Karn with Otawara, unlocking a lot of options for Alan on the Emrakul turn, for example. But it did give Heath that 0.001% chance to actually string together a win from there. So min-maxing all of those margins is what you expect from players who are able to actually find themselves in these positions.
Definitely. Well, it looks like these players have kept. There's a Devourer.
All right, Devourer of Destiny. Pre-game action before Heath does the Fetch Shock Tomio dance.
Yep. And I think Heath kept a hand with double Consign.
Yeah, right. I saw a lot of blue cards in Heath's hand. I think I like it. I think I like it, especially when you have a card advantage engine like Tomio to lead on.
Definitely. We're going to leave a Karn on top with this Devourer of Destiny.
Put it in your deck to draw it.
Yeah, I got to say this. Devourer of Destiny, card that when we were working on it and first seeing it, I felt like, okay, this is almost always going to be a 4 of. And I'm really happy to see that players are playing anywhere from 1 to 4 this weekend. Alan has 3. We saw CFT on 0, right? It's a card that's coming in at so many different places on the numbers and really showing how much room there is to innovate on these Eldrazi decks.
Right. In a lot of ways, it speaks to if your deck is trying to be more explosive, which Devourer of Destiny naturally lends itself to, or if you're trying to just hit your land drops, have a more sort of gradual game that leans on inevitability. And we saw in that last game how much it paid off for Alan to be explosive.
Definitely.
All right. Fetch land and a pass from Alan.
Yeah, a bit of a slower start. Maybe has some of the sideboard cards we boarded in. Haven't been able to catch a glimpse yet.
Can't have Ugin's Labyrinth every game.
True.
All right, here's a Hedge Maze from Heath. Likes what they see, passes back. Windswept Heath, probably grabbing a Surveil land of Alan's own.
get a little information, sculpt that hand.
Commercial district on the table. Worthy of note, Heath also fetched Steam Vents first. First red source exposed.
True, yeah, that definitely can come up with cards like Sowing Microspawn and Karn, the Great Creator. And there's the Ugin's Labyrinth, putting Devour Destiny underneath.
Alan thinking about what to do next, just to pass back. Steam Vents, that emphasis on red, also speaking to Heath probably bringing in Flame of Anor.
Definitely great catch there. An easy card to use to sort of clean up one of those hate pieces, but also sometimes just draw some cards with all the wizards we have. Looks like a lot of Tamiyo's in hand for Heath. He's really hoping to get Kozilek commanded on this Tamiyo, and it looks like that might be what's happening.
Yeah, I really don't think they're going to be too bent out of shape over this Tamiyo getting exiled. The sort of what we internally call the electrolyze mode of Kozilek's command. This is funny. Both players feel like they're winning in this exchange.
Yeah, I mean, he has the extra Tamiyo, but it looks like maybe considering consigning.
Super interesting. I mean, there is a point where you don't want to hold up the mana for all of these consigns forever.
Yeah, and also you might be worried about your opponent needing the spawn, right? Like if the spawn's the other mode, it's like, oh yeah, like I don't mind so much for the Tamiyo, but I do mind about you having the mana now.
Okay, spawn to the battlefield. You called it.
Heath with the Tamiyo and then passing.
All right, draw from Alan.
Taking a second to think. We know we have Karn the Great Creator in hand. It's important to think through your whole turn before executing, right? Like, okay, if I'm going to do this, what exactly am I doing?
The Paulo school of thought. All right, Malevolent Rumble, the way to kick things off.
Worldbreaker, Ghost Quarter, Sanctum of Ugin, and another Rumble. It looks like pretty quickly wanting to grab that breaker, but maybe thinks twice.
That's so funny. I thought it was going to be the Ugin's Labyrinth.
Okay, it is. Okay. It looked like we were moving the rest of the yard. Yeah.
No, I totally see what you're saying.
Ghost Quarter it is.
Okay, and Ghost Quarter's not bad. If Heath didn't bring in that mountain, this could be ruinous.
Yeah, definitely. Might also be in combination with a future liquid metal coating turn, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is something where these players are probably planning 2 or 3 turns in advance on all of this stuff, and this is just an example of that.
Colorless mana is in the pool as well, so we still have access to 4 mana here, as you see off screen with our tracker. And here's Kozilek's command.
Okay. Sacking some spawns. Going after the Tamiyo.
I wonder, is it Tamiyo make 3 Scions, or is it Tamiyo draw?
I suspect it's going to be the Scions, but I think my guess meter on Kozilek's command is something like I have been right once and wrong like 5 times this weekend. So really, see, okay, the draw, not the spawns.
Yeah. Makes some sense just trying to get the right cards to get out of the situation. I think good patience from Heath here on, oh, it looks like. All right, and it looks like Sowing Microspawn's going to go on bottom, keep a land on top, take that draw. And yeah, I think Alan might be a little land light in general, so really valuing that land for turn, not having to commit 4 mana to the Microspawn.
Right, this is a spot where whenever you see this many Eldrazi spawns being made and it's not to cast something like Emrakul, it definitely signals that something's missing.
Another blue card for turn. I couldn't make it out if it was a consign, but it kind of looked like one. And,
All right.
Tamiyo.
Tamiyo.
Yeah. And you see Heath move forward, a little bit of a laugh there, I think, from them. I mean, like, yeah, 3rd time's the charm.
It's funny. It's just like, look, buddy, you drew 2 Kozilek's commands. Me having another Tamiyo back can't be that out of this world.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. So Windswept Heath, getting a forest. Love the Arena Forest.
It's a great one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great, great taste.
All right, and there's Writhing Chrysalis.
This is nice. This is pressure. This is the other way that you can really capitalize against a deck that is missing its land drops. Normally, you kind of think, oh, I have to hold the deck at bay. They're a combo deck. They're going to kill me so fast. But the other way you can prevent that instead of having a bunch of hate pieces is just deleting their life total.
Definitely. Putting, them under pressure of actually losing the game is so important. And this does also act like a mini ramp spell, putting us up to 7 mana when it comes to the next turn.
Super interesting. Heath did not end up using a consign on that. Just speaking to those, in their mind, those have a specific job to do.
Yep, and you see a lot of pages here from Heath. Drew Malevolent Rumble, doesn't cast it, wants to leave up consign.
Right. Looking at the deck list sheet, I'm only seeing 15 lands in Heath's deck. 3 are on the table, so there just really are not very many ways to cast another blue spell off of a Malevolent Rumble as like a reliable hit.
Love to see the patience. We can always go for it later. And we've seen from this Breach deck the explosive sort of capabilities of it as that 8th mana source hits the battlefield with Windswept Heath.
Notably, does that mean it is possible? No, we're just short of picking up the Devourer of Destiny from Ugin's Labyrinth and casting it. Here's another forest.
Now, one nice thing about when we use the spawn, right, is it going to grow that Writhing Chrysalis, so able to really put some mixed pressure.
All right, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is it time for that Karn that we saw get put on top on the first turn?
Oh, second Writhing Chrysalis.
That's a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, that's a ton of spawn. These are 2-3 reaches. I mean, it's going to get out of hand quickly.
And the other side of jumping up to 7 mana is these cards are basically just super Tarmogoyf and cost 2 mana whenever you're trying to double spell in a turn.
And you do need something like Consign to hit both modes if you want to fully clean it up.
And now Heath is basically put to the test of saying, okay, the first one, probably not that much damage, understandable, you get a few turns of breathing room. The second one is a ton.
All right, and I kind of like this here. We're going after just the Writhing Chrysalis. The trigger still happens, so we still have Consign for something like a Karn, and now we have 4 Scions coming down, but we're not just stone cold to it.
Okay, so 4 spawns on the board. Ghost Quarter Forest still available as well.
Yeah, and now Alan needs to figure out, am I going to use these Scions this turn to play Karn? And also, do I want to use maybe, all my Scions? Do I want to use most of them? Do I want to Ghost Quarter the Steam Vents? A lot of plays available.
It's funny when your opponent's choking on mana like this. The Ghost Quarter could even be a weird liability of just giving Heath 1 extra mana on a turn cycle.
Definitely.
Okay, here's that Karn that we saw stacked on turn 1 gets met by the second copy of Consigned to Memory.
And it looks like Alan deciding, do I want to let this Tameo get in and potentially start popping clues and having more to pop, or do I want to attack for 4? Tough spot.
Yeah, right. This is one where I'm not even sure what I would do in this position, and we can see all the cards in hand.
Serve.
Oh, yeah. Listen, right as Alan did it. All right.
Yeah, I like this. You got to get the game over, and with Heath stuck on mana, the 2 lands, if he wants to do that with the clues, you're winning that kind of race right now. So let's try and get this game over with.
All right. So it looks like they picked up a copy of Mox Amber, which is really nice here.
Yeah, basically an island.
Well, not basically.
Boo.
Okay, Mox Amber hits the table. Now it's Malevolent Rumble time. Urza Saga, Thassa's Oracle, Imri, the possible gets here.
Yeah, and Heath probably brought in the Jace from the sideboard to play around something like Grinding Station, naming it just the Oracle. Normally you'll name the Underworld Breach, but sometimes players do different things. So probably not too much worry about that unless Heath only left in the Oracle. Might be thinking about that. I imagine this is a moment of, do I want this Urza Saga just as my land for turn, or, the other spell.
Is there anything to getting the Imri just to fuel the graveyard more?
Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable, right? It's like, it is in my mind sort of Imri can mill, sort of maybe get us there, maybe get us a bauble and start drawing some cards. Also might just be a blocker.
Sure. Okay, so here's an Eldrazi spawn of Heath's Own. And they're tanking on if they're going to cast anything with this Steam Vents or just pass. First, the Tamio serves, finds another clue. And here's Imri. Hits the bobble.
Yeah, that'll be big for getting us out of it. But shields are down this turn for Heath. Allen is good for takeoff. Question is, what can Allen do?
Ooh. And this is tight. Oh, when your Eldrazi opponent starts thumbing through the graveyard, it's not a good feeling.
It is not. It's a bad look for you.
8 mana as well. 5 types, something that Eldrazi does not have a hard time getting in the graveyard. We have Kindred Instant at the very least. We know there's a land. We know there's a Planeswalker. And I think we know there's a creature. So that's 5.
Yeah, I mean,
Emrakul should be castable right now.
Yeah, it's castable, and casting it means the Chrysalis, grows as well. And, you're at exactly 13 at the moment, which Tamio could stop with an Emrakul trampling, but it's a tough place to be. Another thing that matters here, too, is just, making sure we don't accidentally mess this up. Is Emrakul now the kind of thing we want to play versus a different card in hand? My gut says probably, but it's hard to know without knowing the exact cards in hand, because we could pick up the Devourer.
It's so funny. One of the crazy things about Modern as a format is the number of times we've seen this weekend where Emrakul the Promised Land wasn't the thing you were supposed to cast when it was castable.
Yep. And we're going to get a little card count here. So there's Planeswalker, Creature, Land, Kindred, Instant, Sorcery.
So that's 6 types.
Yep, that means we get to leave 1 up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 mana paid so far. Okay, 6, 7. Both of the spawns bite the dust. Gonna get a couple more counters on the Chrysalis. And Emrakul, the Promised End, hits the stack, and so does her trigger.
Yeah, and now Writhing Chrysalis probably is going to get in there. You could hold it back so that you could attack the Imri into it as well. Both make a lot of sense. You're probably going to clean up all this stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how Ghost Quarter is going to get played, because now Allen can Ghost Quarter on Heath's turn, and Heath is going to choose to fail to find.
Oh, okay. But also, is there a world? We see Underworld Breach.
I mean,
This is one of those times where we could see Allen just force Heath to do the combo very poorly.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see. Yes, Allen has a lot of options here. Going to take a gander on Flame of Anor. Could do something like shoot the own Moxen, I guess. That's
Sure.
that's an available line. I don't think there's a second Amber in the graveyard, so we can't just, play Underworld Breach and then just escape Amber, and get rid of the graveyard that way.
Okay, so here's 2 mana for the Underworld Breach. At the very least, Heath knows that he wants to get it out of their hand.
Yeah, this is something you just want to get out of hand. It won't be a huge issue in the graveyard. I don't think there's any shifting woodlands, and even if there are, that's so much mana.
Right, there's a couple of shifting woodlands,
pardon
but
me.
just like you said, ton of mana at this point.
Yep. And combining that with this Ghost Quarter line available, it's just going to be so hard to crawl out of.
Allen really thinking about what to do with the turn from here.
And, I wonder if there's some world where Allen's trying to maybe go like, okay, I cast this, then like a bauble, then I can sign your bauble as a way to get more cards out of the yard so that there is a top deck breach. It is less of an issue. And then we run it back, via another example of it going again.
It's really interesting where it is a spot where if Allen really wanted to, they're allowed to just basically cast the bauble a lot of times to exile all of Heath's graveyard, but then Heath's going to have a bunch of card draw on their quote-unquote real upkeep.
Yep.
Okay, Malevolent Rumble. Exiling Thassa's Oracle. Very strange decision in comboing, of course, but, you know, Imrakul does what Imrakul wants.
Yeah, I mean, Heath is the one who's 12-2-1. Now, the Spawn is going to come back. I wonder, I don't think Alan can cast that other Breach and have that be the take and then sort of go down a card. Could also take that land and
just
like
force Heath to lose a life.
Yeah, just put Heath down to 12. I mean, you have an Emrakul with Trample.
Okay,
right?
so here's the possible value in that. If Heath does end up finding a way to win this game, if you fetch, you get to see how Heath sideboarded.
True. Yeah, that's actually a great point.
Okay, those cards are now in exile. Not much mana left to do anything too crazy with Underworld Breach.
Yeah, now we're going to do the Ghost Quarter.
Oh.
Which now that lets you search the Fail to Find.
All right. No, wouldn't you know it? Oh, and now Alan also does get to search the library, like you said.
Yeah, and you're seeing the claims came in. We have the Pearson there still. There's the Needle.
Saw the Jace.
Yep. And it's looking like it's going to be very tough for Heath to get out of this one. As we kind of mentioned before, we were expecting Tamio and Emery to come in and get swallowed by these Eldrazi.
All right, well.
Gobble them up.
The blue creatures attacketh. And just like you said, the Eldrazi gobble them up.
Yeah, and now we're left with just a Hedge Maze and a Mox, Amber, and 2 clues in play, and Jace was the draw for turn.
Not what Heath was looking for.
Definitely a bit of an awkward one. Looks like maybe the judges are
double checking themselves. A lot of moving parts for both of these decks. The graveyards matter. A ton of mana is being spent on a bunch of game actions.
Yeah, might be a life total thing. That's 99% of the time it's life totals.
Right, yeah.
One of the judges looks over and says, I see Heath says 13 here.
Oh, there's supposed to be a clue from the Tamio.
Oh, okay, sure. We missed the clue.
Right, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. You know what? You can have it, Heath.
Type of thing that very technically could matter.
Yes, yeah. And these things do matter, and it's on the players. You need to maintain a good board state and, sort of on Alan there controlling the turn. So it's really not at the end of the world. You see the players are laughing about it a little bit, right? Yeah, both players kind of know, like, this is not.
Right, like we said, very technically could matter. You can see he's just going, yeah, I mean, okay, let's see what we're supposed to do from here, I guess.
Yeah. Gonna take a look at what's in exile.
Yeah, and this is the spot where Alan feels very good about his odds of winning this match, but it's not a given yet, right? We have seen Grinding Breach come back from being preposterously far behind in this event.
Definitely. And, I mean, we can play the Tamio and the Emery here thanks to the Mox. So we're going to have blockers, so the Emrakul can't assign lethal currently. And that's going to, be something that kind of matters in these spots.
Right. There's a spot where, or this is a spot, rather, where, let's say Alan has nothing in hand. Heath could cast the Emery. There's a lot of artifacts in play. Mill over a Mox Opal, cast Tamio to chump block, go down to 1, and then rip something like an Underworld Breach and end up comboing next turn.
Definitely.
In spite of all of this.
Yeah, it looks like we're just recounting to the judge what happened. And, I mean, it's a situation where there's a lot going on. It's high stakes. It's not an excuse. You still need to, maintain those
definitely.
things. But it's a very easy sort of thing to happen. And
as we get towards the end of the event as well, these players have played a ton of Magic this week, and this is round 15.
Yep.
Okay, and we see that clue die get rolled up. Players resuming right now. He's thinking through how to maximize their chances to get another turn.
Yeah, and he's just like, actually, I was thinking during all that judge call, I can't do it.
Yep, it is time for them to pack it up. And Alan Hubbard, I think, okay, almost certainly Pro Tour invite.
Definitely.
I'm starting to think maybe even into top 8. Congratulations to Alan Hubbard.
Yes.
I love this build of Eldrazi, too.